My cat.
Alright, so tonight we're going to cover abs, low back, and kind of into the thigh glute area. This is a continuation of what we have been doing. I'm going to go over a couple of things first. The mission statement is basically to help individuals understand the links between their minds, emotions, body, and life so that they may live a more balanced, healthy life, the goal being to embody a pure heart and a peaceful, focused mind. It is one thing to read and obtain new information, but said information, like religion, is useless unless one can embody the information. We embody information by practicing, and practicing we're starting to do here. The idea is that the information I share with you, and that y'all are part of this, it's a collective. So if you have something to throw in, I appreciate it. Everybody that adds up their information, Donna and all the people that throw information in, helps the collective learn. So practicing, what I'm being led to is more and more in practicing to embody what I know as opposed to getting more information. I finally reached a point in my life where when I was searching before, it's like you get an answer, but then you have more questions. And now, thank God, I'm and switched around, so each new answer I get actually, fits into the picture and makes it makes it larger and more collective, and I have fewer questions. But the practicing is embodying it, not just knowing it. And you can think about the whole idea of going to the top of the mountain to get information, and then you got to bring it back down to earth to embody it. And that metaphor is in, was it Moses who went to the top of the mountain?
Yep.
Okay. For some reason I lost that for a second. Moses going to the top of the mountain, seeing the light chakra is right here. Moses coming back down to the earth, the four-legged animal, the calf being the physical body. So all these metaphors are built into the story. We get information, but the whole idea is to bring it back down into life and practice it. If all we had to do is learn things, we all just might as well be up in the mountain, meditating. And it's easy there because you don't have real life to get in your way. So practicing is trying to bring that into, making an effort to make that come into your full life. So what we do here is we have a couple of levels of what we do. The verbal lesson and written worksheets are the attunement. They're helping you to grok the information, which means to physically embody it, not just know it in your head. The meditation is to expand and develop your awareness. We've been kind of missed out on once. The last one we did a meditation on. And sometimes when I run out of time, I may skip that, but I really want to do the meditation. Kundalini Yoga, the tapping and the Qigong, are ways of cleansing and preparing the energy pathways in the physical body, the vessel. And pranayama, which just basically means breath work and chanting, is building and refining your chi and the ability to focus and direct it. So to me, that's like a four-pronged way of actually embodying all this stuff that seems to be kind of airy-fairy, when it really isn't. Spirituality is to be aware of yourself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and be able to direct your mind, body, spirit appropriately. And that, to me, is spiritual adulthood. The whole effort of Jesus or a Buddha or a Bodhidharma is nothing but how to undo that which society has done to you. Bodhi in Buddhism is the understanding possessed by a Buddha regarding the nature of things, the Tao. It is traditionally translated into English with the word enlightenment. My translation of enlightenment is in awareness of. Just like if this room was dark and you had a light, it brings awareness to something. So from my perception, enlightenment isn't the end stage, it's the beginning. Because you can know you're an alcoholic, but it doesn't mean that you're free of it, right? There has to be a practice or an effort to get rid of that. So it means awakening. So Bodhi is knowledge into the causal mechanism by which beings incarnate, manifest their consciousness into the material form, and experience suffering or symptoms. And this has been something that's really been coming up for me recently, manifesting their consciousness. I was talking to Donna the other day, and it made me quite, how you can do something and you really don't question yourself? So when somebody asks you questions, it makes you kind of like look inside and go, okay, what am I really coming from? And that led me to do that sheet up there that I'm probably going to go over Thursday, not tonight. If we have time, I may. But that sheet up there on the right is kind of an answer to that. And basically, if you want to know what I believe, and you don't have to believe the way I do, this is just where my journey's taken me, is that everything that's in the physical reality is simply a mirror of consciousness. So if you're addressing the physical body only, you're trying to change what's showing up on the mirror by beating the mirror, and that's never going to happen. You've got to change what's happening in the consciousness. So if you go get your chakras aligned, that's cool, but they're going to go right back to where they were, depending on the time frame. They're going to go back to what your consciousness was thinking. Same thing with your endocrine system, your digestive system. You can get all these things worked on, but if you're not changing the underlying thing that makes them work, then that change is always going to be temporary, never permanent. And you know it's temporary when you got to have the drug or whatever to make it work. Okay? Our cells have a natural Taoistic way. Tao just means the natural flow of things. When our consciousness is not interfering with the natural flow of how things work, the body flows naturally. It does what it needs to do. But for example, if and I was trying to solidify this a little bit more, but this is exactly from my perception how it works. Actually, let me go up here a second, even though you may not be able to see. I'll probably all see this, but I'm going to move this a little bit. And this, of course, usually when I'm trying to express something, I'll start out with kind of a vague nutshell, and then I get more specific as time goes by. 'Cause the more you talk about something, the more you own it, right? So let's say here's consciousness, and what I'm coming to as far as what I'm coming to as far as what consciousness is, it's the level of spirit that you're able to embody. I don't see anything separate between spirit and consciousness. And the level of spirit, which basically means the level of your embodiment of spirituality, okay, of your consciousness. In other words, if you think about it, when you say somebody's really spiritual, what are you saying?
Really conscious.
Exactly. So the consciousness and the spirituality goes hand in hand. If somebody's got an illness, basically it's a misdirected or a lack of spirit, a lack of consciousness. So our work, at least where I'm going more and more, is you're bringing consciousness, you're bringing the manifestation, which is consciousness, right? If there's a distortion in any of these things, it's telling you where the block is. So you can try to change someone's chakras and balance them daily and do a meditation every day and eat right and do that. But if this is never changed, you're always going to revert back to this, okay? I recently last year I did this whole cleansing thing with carbs, and I was like, wow, I've got that issue cleared. Well, here comes Christmas. I went into this whole frenzy thing lately, right? And what came back around to me is there was an aspect of that I hadn't cleared. So a year was gone by and I did good, right? And it took a lot of effort. Because here, if you're trying to change the mirror, it takes a lot of effort, okay? Seriously. You have to put a lot of effort into changing the mirror. It's a lot less effort to change the consciousness, okay? That tarot card experiment we did really solidified that for me. Simply how y'all got one card the first reading, and then simply by changing your consciousness, instantaneously, you had almost the opposite reaction. That's freaking crazy. That tells you that your consciousness is creating that for you. So if you've got an endocrine issue, which basically ties into chakras, you can try to change that by working on the physical body, but you're only going to get so far. So let me go back to this pancreas issue for me. You know, I've talked about this recently about my mother had lots of thyroid issues. She had thyroid cancer when I was 3 years old. She smoked, and she never had a really strong, powerful voice. To this day, she still has an issue with that. But that's for her to get. You know, you can't save people unless they're ready to be asking for help. So it's not your responsibility. So she had this thyroid issue, and throughout my life, she had the thyroid cancer, had the thyroid irradiated, had it taken out, had to take Synthroid, and the running joke was, oh, you haven't taken your medications, because when somebody doesn't take thyroid, they tend to be, or they're like, meow, meow, or their energy is really low. So here she was having to take this pill to address this issue, which really wasn't fixing it, was it? No. Because if you take the pill away, is it really healed? No. Hell no, it's not, right? Because you're just addressing the mirror. Anyway, what I learned through the pattern is she was a really giving care, or she is a loving, caring person, but her consciousness, the thyroid feeling drain that she'd want to give, okay, and then days later, a week later, she would need that back because she was low. So there'd be a guilt or something around that. So I learned over time that, no, I'm going to do it myself. I don't want any help from anybody else. I'm going to do it myself, because I learned that if I get something sweet and enjoyable, there's going to be a backlash to that. And that's exactly how we get programmed. So where that showed up for me was in the pancreas area, which has to do about taking in sweet things. So literally, my consciousness saying that I cannot enjoy sweet things without some guilty thing coming up, manifested in the physical body. And the cool thing about that is it's so direct. The translation is so direct that it's insanely direct. I mean, I'm starting to see that more and more. So my pancreas cells, basically my consciousness was saying, oh, when you see this nutrient coming, you can't have it. Because if you have it, something bad will happen. Does that make sense? I mean, that's how directly it works. So I thought I'd cleared that. I cleared a level of it. But then I was actually working with Bambi, and we had a similar kind of thing on this. And what came up was, for me, was if I feel good, I'm bad. Whoa. There's that whole thing about my pancreas can't take that in completely. So here I started in December, around Christmas time, starting this whole carb thing. You know, there was a couple of things around that I'm not going to go into that brought that whole shift for me. But there I went back into it. So there's basically my mirror showing me another level that I missed. Does that make sense? So you can try the hell if you want to change this here, this level, but you're only going to get so far unless you're willing to address the deeper level. And what we're going in this class as far as massage therapy goes is that the muscles are the direct reflection of these other systems. Okay? And just by looking at the body, you get to the deeper core of things. So you can go to psychologists and they can tell you this problem, this problem, this problem. But what I went around the other way. And what I've noticed is by finding the maps of the body, which I've spent years doing, you can look at the body and it will directly tell you what's wrong here. You change that, then actually what's showing up on the screen, you know, on your physical body changes. And that's really cool on a couple of different levels. But if we're trying to address just the physical, you miss part of the picture. And the relief is only going to be temporary. Just like my carb shift was temporary, it was a year, and I'm not going back into as far as I was, but I'm still hit a hiccup. Because all of a sudden I got a taste for carbs, and then I got ravenous. You go from, oh, I'll have one piece of bread to, okay, let's have 3 ice cream treats. You know, that tells you that you're out of balance. And the thing about that is if my cells were able to absorb the sweet things, then I would only need a little bit, right? So I get the taste of, wow, this feels good inside. But then your cells can't absorb it, so you got to eat more and more and more and more to satisfy that. And then that becomes a pancreas. That actually becomes, in the long run, the disease is diabetes, right? And that's to me where the correlation. We're going to go into the inside body once we finish the outside body. So we got about 3 more weeks of the outside body, then we're going to go into the physiology, which we're going to be studying the same thing, but in a different way, okay?
Also, whenever you desire or crave sweets, there is often a lung issue, which is really interesting.
Which is allowing.
Angry, too.
When the lung's dysfunctional, it requires more carbs, more refined sugars, let me put it that way.
So they're needed at that time, or you?
Well, it's like the imbalance is forcing you to draw in those kinds of sugars to replace or try to get the lung to function. But
you want the healthier carbs, I would think.
right, and you want to get to the deeper issue of the lungs.
And there's also psychological aspects that tie in that really deeply because, you know, your enteric nervous system, which is basically your intestines, which is actually a reflection of your brain. So if you fold the chakra system at the heart, this brain totally overlays this brain, as does the upper 3 chakras lay over the lower 3. It's a perfect reflection. So we have a physical manifestation of the consciousness aspect. 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So when you eat carbs, you stimulate a release of serotonin. That's why you crave those things when you don't feel good. The bad thing about that is we gravitate towards unhealthy carbs. So we'll grab a bag of potato chips or some sugary sweet thing, which what it does is you get the serotonin release, but you also get an insulin release. That crashes you, and you get into a vicious cycle. So yeah, carbs are needed in the body. They got to be the right kind of carbs, though. Cookie, yeah. Thank you, Jeannie, for the cookie carb. And there's also a thing about, to make this, because there's an aspect where if you deny yourself, which is actually what I went into a state of denying myself carbs and sweets, which is actually an imbalance just as much as going the other way, right? So you've got to, if you have, and this is the thing I see with a lot of health food people, guru people in the health industry, is they wind up finding everything wrong with what you eat, to the degree that you can't eat anything, drink anything. Seriously, I mean seriously. So,
Right.
so basically, what happens is if your body is in natural flow with itself, you'll eat anything, and it will pull what it needs and get rid of the rest to a certain degree. If you're eating 20 cookies, you're causing an imbalance. But you're eating 20 cookies. Why? Is it because of the physiology, or is it because of the consciousness? Right.
Right.
No, it's not just because it tastes good. There's a consciousness aspect there. You address that, you don't need the 20 cookies. So I know I went into an imbalance because I didn't go into like I'm going to start eating carbs. I went in from none to let me have, I became ravenous. So that ravenous part of me is like, oh, I got a taste of something sweet in my life. And then there's a part of you that's been holding back on that, and then you go like a crazy wild animal, right? That tells you you're out of balance. So ideally, yeah, you can have a cookie and a sweet and be okay with that. It's when you go to the extremes that tell you you're out of balance, basically.
Are you going to eat that?
I am going to eat that.
This past
I'm
week,
gonna-
this past week, one of my coworkers had a really stressful day, and she went out for lunch, and she came back, and she had 3 packages of cookies,
Oh, yeah.
like Oreos
Oh,
and
my goodness.
pecan sandies and butter butters, and she's like, "Okay, it's just been really stressful, so I brought cookies." And we're looking at her going, "We're not stressed. Well, I'll just leave these out for we can all share." I'm like,
To justify her eating all these cookies, yeah.
"Yeah, you enjoy those cookies." Thank
Yeah,
you.
misery loves company, yeah. And then,
They gave her permission.
Right. Well, they were all open, so she'd like eat them in the car.
Oh.
All the packages were open already. It's like, don't get too close to
So
her.
what she was really trying to do was like, okay, y'all take the rest of these and save me.
Right. Keep me from eating all, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my energy was going with that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, here, let me drive through 10 different places today and eat as many junk things as I can.
Well,
That-
until you get to the level of consciousness on this sweet stuff,
Mhm.
you can apply the Ayurvedic medicine of eating something sour afterwards.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole thing about getting the 7 different flavors.
Yeah.
Well, how bad is cheese for you? Like if you use like one slice of Velveeta that's about that thick, and you chop it all
4
up.
inches by 6 inches.
No.
bad is it?
You know, it's like one slice of Velveeta about that thick, and you chop it all up, and you put it in your quinoa with your broccoli. That is so good.
Well, there's a level of everything. To me, that's nothing compared to.
Did I take something healthy and make it unhealthy by adding
Well,
the
considering
cheese?
Velveeta's really not a food product, have you read the ingredients on Velveeta?
I have a video that says, talk about crafted. You're like, which crafted?
Yeah.
But again, here's the thing: is if you let your body naturally flow, then it's going to read what it needs to read, take what it needs, and gets rid of the bad, right? We're going to be drawn to the negative things and unable to process those when we have the consciousness issue. So the best thing to do is get yourself straight. Period. That's with anything.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about abstaining from eating this and that winds up being just as bad as an imbalance as anything else. You find out, these really strict vegetarians, and I went through a very strict phase of vegetarian. I was a vegetarian like 8 to 10 years. But the funny thing about me is I was the vegetarian picked on. I wasn't the one picking anybody. They're like, you're a here in Texas, you're a vegetarian? I usually find vegetarians on everybody else's butt. But if you go to a certain extremes, you'll find imbalance. In Chinese medicine, a strictly raw food diet, which I did that for a little while, when you do a strictly raw food diet, you put too much cold energy in the body and there's not enough heat. And you can cause an imbalance there. So everything, if you go to a fanatic level, you're going to cause an imbalance because it's not natural, period. Anyway, we're totally off track.
But sometimes you just kind of have those cycles, because it's like I'll go through a cycle like you where it's like all I want is buttered toast.
Yeah.
It's like I could eat an entire flippin' loaf of bread.
Right.
Or I just want raw vegetables or just raw fruit.
Mhm.
So I kind of go through
You want to
phases.
tell them about that green
But those are
tea that you gave me a sample of?
So-
That is badass stuff. She's got some stuff that I've got to get more information.
Mhm.
It's matcha green tea. It was the intent of how it was grown is for your body has all different kinds of, and it affects the brain waves. That's why it's called matcha green tea. I don't know if you know anything about
I've seen a little bit, but
matcha green tea. But anyway, it's a thermogenic and it feels really good. And most of my clients call it happy tea.
Yeah.
Because the intent, the person who gave it to me, of course, I want it to be happy, loving, nourishing. So they're getting two different intents from the company and from me. And when you drink it, you just feel wonderful for the
And
rest
it
of the day.
tastes good.
Good.
It looks like sewer water.
Where do you
It
get
tastes like
it?
heaven. It just is really good.
I
And
don't. I got it from Stephanie. I'll have to
Where do you
ask.
get it, Stephanie?
I'm a distributor.
It's like a powder, and you put it in your water bottle and shake it up, but it looks like green, like seaweed.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I actually give it to my boys.
But it really tastes good. It tastes like sweet tarts and water. Is all I
Sweet
got.
tarts.
But it takes away all that sweet craving, like
does.
you know,
It
I
really,
want
really
I want a
does.
cookie or I want this.
Well, that's what Donna's talking about with, certain Ayurvedic herbs, or Chinese medicine is all about herbs. But you know what? Remember, I talked about this before. In Chinese medicine, there's a 12-tier aspect to Chinese medicine. The top 3 are meditation, qigong, which is energy exercise, and diet. All the herbs and the acupuncture and all that is on the bottom of the list. The reason being is self-mastery comes from this, what you're putting in your mouth, what you're thinking, and what you're doing in the physical body. The other things aren't self-mastery. Not that those aren't bad, but you're not mastering yourself. You know what I mean? And by all means, you got to do those things. But again, if you take that away, where do you come back to? Where is your center space? You know what I mean? But those things are helpful. You got to do them in this system.
Could I make a comment on what you were saying?
Sure.
I understand what you were saying about the butter bread thing, but if you take it back and just look at, it's a symptom.
Right.
And symptoms are our communication system of our human body and mind, and they're only trying to communicate 2 things, and that's besides, getting your attention of the mind is to, hey, I need something, and I need for you to give it, find out what it is that I need and give it to me. Or number 2 is, you're doing something that's keeping me from healing, and I need you to stop it. And those are the only 2 things that our symptoms ever communicate to us. Something that it needs to finish out the healing process that it's in, or something's interfering with that healing. And I need to put out that symptom to get your mind's attention, so you'll investigate what you're doing, so that you can stop doing it. And then I wanted to make a comment on green tea. I don't recommend green tea to people unless I've checked the fluoride levels, because green tea naturally has fluoride in it. And people grow up with so much fluoride, in their dentistry procedures and toothpaste and stuff like this. So if they have a high level of fluoride toxicity already, green tea's just going to perpetuate that. Though there is one green tea that is mixed with probiotics and a little friendly microbes there. They chew that fluoride up and spit it out. And then that green tea's okay. But it's only available to doctors like myself.
I mean, this stuff is cool, and I don't discount anything that anybody's talking about here. But to me, it still goes back to consciousness.
Right.
You're still, those symptoms you're talking about with her, they're a consciousness, period.
Right.
I mean, you can look at the symptom and go, okay, what is that trying to tell you what you need? What you need is to change your consciousness,
Right.
from my perception.
Well, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and the nutrition helps us do that for sure. But to me, it's like trying to get your attention and say, what, and this is just me. And I may be going extreme out to the far end, but that's where I'm being led. And my whole journey has taken me to the point, and I haven't fully embodied this yet, because I'm not going to go there, but because for that to fully happen, I've got to start manifesting certain things happening. Anyway, yes, we are in this place where we have a physical body, and we have emotions, mental, and consciousness. It all works together. What I'm trying to show is that whatever shows up in the physical body comes from the consciousness problem, okay? And you can do medication, you can do supplements, you can eat certain things, drink certain things. All that really is helpful, right? And it's beneficial. But still, if you stop just there, you've missed going to the top of the problem, the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid is like the eye, it's the consciousness. So you can go to any level and address those things. You can go every week and get your chakras balanced. You can go every week and get your muscles worked on. But if you stop doing that, where will your consciousness, what will show back up in the body? Where will you come back to center point? To me, where you are center point without all that stuff is what you need to work on, period. But that's just me. That's the extreme I've gone to. And maybe that's getting a little too woo-woo for people, but I can't help where I'm being pushed.
Well,
And
just like the symptom thing, you know, it's almost like you can go symptom this way or symptom this way. You can go, I'm gonna look at what this behavior or this craving is trying to communicate to me, and I'm gonna deal with it on a physical level, or let me back up here and let's go to the source and find the consciousness of what that symptom is. Like what on the conscious level am I needing, or that I need to remove?
Mhm. Yeah, same thing, pretty much. I mean, taking it from two different perspectives. But from my perception, if my cells, from my consciousness, I'm telling my pancreas cells, I cannot absorb sweet things because if I do, something bad will happen. I don't care how much sugar I eat or what kind of herb I take to balance that system out. I've still got that consciousness running through my system. And if I take those supports away, if I take the supports away, where am I going to wind up? I'm going to wind up back where I was before. Maybe if I'm really, really focused, which, to be honest, I sometimes don't find within myself, and I rarely find within other people, really, really focused on the physical to be aware that that's going to be changing the consciousness, then yeah, you can go that route. But it's you know, to me, why not just go to the source, unplug it? Because if my cells are not working properly because they're going by the blueprint that my consciousness is saying, why not just give them a new blueprint? And say, okay, whatever you take in, you're going to be able to absorb. So digestive issues are always going to be related to you being able to take in what's coming in from the environment, and that's mental, emotional, and physical. So it's your food, it's the emotions, what mommy and daddy didn't give you, and how they gave that to you, and how you extract the energy. Because really the digestive system is all about taking the chi, the sun energy that the plant picked up or the animal picked up, and you're turning it back into chi. That's your entire digestive system, really. And what comes out the other end is the waste. You're really getting rid of the physical matter. You didn't absorb any physical matter, and as far as, you know, on a real level. What you kick out is the physical matter. What you are left with is the chi.
Well, even on a cellular level, that happens. I mean, your body
Exactly, yeah.
takes in and then lets out.
Right, and to me, the cell, what proves a hologram is the whole concept of reflexology. A hologram is, here's this picture, and I take a corner of it, and if I zoom into it, I can see the whole picture again, even though I've got part of it. Your hands are a hologram of your body. Your eyes, iridology. The ears are the whole body curled up in a fetal position. On and on and on. There's this whole mirroring. It's like the Russian nesting dolls. It goes in. So how I visualize, if you look at your body, I imagine that what your body is doing, how it processes everything, exactly what your cells are mirroring. So if you have an issue taking sweet things in on an emotional level, guess what the physical cell is going to be able to not do? It's not going to be able to take in the sweet things. That's just how I see it. It's a complete reflection. And like I said, I haven't fully owned this because I'm the type that has to. I'm a bit of a doubting Thomas. I got to stick my fingers in the side of Christ. Show me. Other people can go on faith, but my whole path is like, okay, I want to know the mechanism, and I really do believe I know the mechanism now. And that's what I'm trying to share with you is the mechanism of what's making the physical manifest. And basically, it's conscious information being manifested in physical formation. That's all it is. The physical world is the formation of the information you're putting into reality. That's pretty awesome if you can get that. The formation of physical reality, your body and everything else, where you work, all that. The physical formation is strictly coming from your information, mental information. Change the information you're putting out, just like the tarot card experiment, which proved another deep level to that. You change the information you put out, what comes back from the physical is different. I mean, that experiment we did where a lot of people had total opposite based on simply changing their consciousness within a 5-minute period, maybe. And it changed. So what you're getting back from reality completely changes. So you can try to beat the digestive system in order, but if you actually get in line with, okay, I'm able to receive all that I need, I'm nurtured, I'm able to receive nurturing love and all that, then what happens is the cells fall in line.
So beliefs and programs is where these ailments are coming at us.
Right,
Yeah.
totally. It's in that metaphor is in the Bible in Genesis, when here we are living in this paradise. We have all that we need. We have complete connection with God, male and female, Adam and Eve. What happens? What do Adam and Eve do? They eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. That's judgment. Knowledge of good and bad. You have a, this is good, this is bad. That's your judgment. As soon as you take on judgment, God, from my perception, God didn't kick us out of the garden because the whole planet is the garden. We're on it, okay?
Right.
What happened is our judgment actually kicked our perceptions out of the garden. In other words, our judgment blinds us from seeing the paradise we live in and the brothers and sisters we live with. That's the freaking paradigm we're in right now. It's our judgments, our misperceptions that kicked us out of the garden. Or not, didn't kick us out, but keeps us from seeing that we're in this paradise and that we could have paradise together. No. Our judgments of each other, this, that, is the separation. God didn't separate us, we separated ourselves. And to me, work like this is getting back into your wholeness. So that's why I bring it back to consciousness, because to me, that's what's going to heal. That's what's going to heal your connection back to spirit and back to each other, the wholeness of yourself.
Well, didn't you find it curious, like when they're, well, a little bit, we watch a few shows on TV, not a lot,
Uh-huh.
and we mute out all the commercials because we get so sick of them telling you, you need this drug, but
Right.
it's going to cause you to have this, and this.
Right.
Well, I talked to my son like last weekend. He'd been laying on the couch watching football all weekend. He said, and I'd seen the same commercial, and he said, he's only 38. I think my testosterone's low. I'm like,
Those commercials
how
just
many
started
other
coming on
men
TV.
that are laying on the couch,
Yeah.
drinking a beer, watching a football game, are going to leave that day believing that their only problem in life is their testosterone?
Yeah, and it couldn't be anything to do with their lifestyle,
Right.
what their thoughts are, right? No, that's crazy.
Or they're sad, or their vicious mouth, or any of the other things.
Or they're laying
you
on the
know?
couch drinking a beer. With anger at the football game.
Right.
Doing nothing.
Yeah. But I mean, they speak it over us all the time, you know?
Okay, so let's carry on. I love tangents like that, but so to me, all of it's valid. All of it's valid. You need to address all levels, and I really am of that belief system. But when it comes down to it, I believe if you change the consciousness, the behavior of not only your body, your cells, the DNA, everything changes. And why things aren't working properly is our consciousness is holding those things in certain patterns. And you can, by the systems, tells you why you're out of balance. If it's around digestive, you know that you're unable to process and accept things and have things. Respiratory is another thing. Elimination is another, and on. Your immune system, all that. And it's a perfect map of the entire body. So these sheets that you have, we're going to take a little inventory of your own body. And you don't have to share this with anybody, so you can keep it to yourself. But just go over the next 3 sheets, the ab sheets, the low back, pelvis, hips. And you've got a couple of pages here, like the muscle page here, this page here, and you've got the colored, I need to give you sheets, or do you have them? Awesome. Okay, so you have your sheets. Go through and feel free to highlight, draw on these pictures, and wherever you're tight, wherever you have issues, you can right in the muscle. Be sure it's just the ab area, the hip area, the ab, or the low back. That's what we're focusing on today. And I'm trying to show you as we go through this, as we have the volunteers come up, I'm trying to show you just how by reading the body you can find the consciousness that's caused the imbalance. That's what I'm after. That's what I'm trying to do with this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Say that again. You said we're doing the hips.
Hips, pelvis, glutes, low back, and abs. Yeah, all that entire area. Shiatsu.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, shiatsu is really nice. It's putting pressure and moving. It's, there's basically 5,000 different, I'm making up a number, different techniques to move energy, right? And with massage, shiatsu is always mixed into it. Shiatsu is pressure. How many times do you push down on somebody? So everybody uses a certain amount of these techniques. It's just sometimes somebody will take that technique and make it into, a classified technique, but
Give it a name.
yeah, give it a name and a fancy name and logo and
Copyright.
yeah, there you go, copyright.
Right?
Copyright always drives me crazy because the information I get, I acknowledge that it doesn't come straight from me. So how the hell can I copyright something that doesn't come right from me? And then everybody copyrights it's like, oh, why can't all of us have access to this information.
It's fine.
Huh?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Precious.
I went and saw that movie at the theater. It was in a small one because it had been there for a while. And it was funny because Schmiegel
Mhm.
was the funniest one because everybody it was kind of funny because you know how sometimes you can get into a theater, you get in that group energy and it's kind of fun, and sometimes you're like, shut up or whatever. But it was kind of fun because it seemed to have a kind of collective energy. So everybody was laughing at different parts, and it was kind of funny. During that whole Schmiegel thing, it was really funny.
Where they
We saw-
were- where they-
In the
where
lake,
they
in the
were-
lake,
Doing
yeah,
Yeah,
it-
having the
yeah.
riddle. and talk
We
to
saw a
themselves.
weird one last night. It's called Branded.
Branded.
That's
It's about all the logos and the companies and they.
Oh, I wanted to
take
see
over
how
that.
they
see
take
how,
over
yeah.
your
It's
really-
subconscious. It's there's a lot more
A lot
there.
of truth in it, but
There's a lot of truth in it.
kind of.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
think
weird.
that short video one I
researched
watched
it,
too
so it
on
does
Brandon.
do that.
The intro to it.
Did have these people with these strange
These
things
creatures
floating
coming
around.
out of the
Yeah.
back of their necks and stuff. It was weird.
Burger
We're
King.
totally programmed.
It's amazing.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Yeah, let me up.
Did you go there? My friends went there.
It was really good.
They liked it.
I was surprised. I haven't had barbecue that good.
Love that. Hey Carla, I ran out of sheets. You can use that if you got anything. Oh, here you go. Actually, take it. Huh? Oh. So I'm kind of overlapping. We're always kind of going a little back over what we did last time, just so we kind of go over some of the same things again. What I'm really trying to share with you is the mapping system that is really trying to show you where your thinking got off track. That's, I mean, if I had to like give it a one line to be that. And basically that's what I've been looking for all my life, is why are things like they are? And knowing's half the battle, it doesn't solve all of it. G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle. Like I said, you can be an alcoholic, you can know you're an alcoholic, but if you're not doing anything or taking the efforts to change that, then what is the knowledge given you?
Inside.
Yeah?
Or the other way, you can be an enabler. And you're an enabler. You don't
True.
know anything about that.
Yeah.
John,
I do too. Lori actually shared this. The wound is the place where the light enters. Or what I'm trying to say is the wound is a reflection of where light is missing.
Sensory goes,
It's a little bit.
but that usually has a lot to do with balance.
So if we look at the physical body, the wound is showing us where light is missing, period. Because when you're doing energy work or massage, because massage is energy work. Whenever you're doing energy work, what you're trying to do is bring energy, chi, light, awareness, love, whatever you want to call it, back to that part of the body. So a wound, whether it's just a painness or a stiffness, is telling you where light's missing, where your consciousness has gone dim.
So a continual lung problem.
Continual lung problem.
Lung issue.
Lung issues are about being able to receive, of course. I know from Louise Hay's book, she talks about asthma as like parents arguing, not being able, because lungs have to do about with your, I'll wait till everybody's quiet and talk about you. Scars can be purposely ways that we unconsciously, purposely block chi flow. Because scars, when the scar tissue grows over a particular meridian, it slows the energy flow. So, for example, if you're cutting up vegetables for dinner with your mate who you're pissed off at, and you cut across one of your fingers, you may be trying to stifle that negative energy flow. You know, because from my perception, there is no accident at all.
speaking of such, whenever, as everybody's filling out their list,
How's everybody? Is everybody pretty done?
Yes.
Okay.
so far, you know, as you've worked on people and did the demonstrations, it's been more of a chronic pain, more of a long-term pain.
Uh-huh.
Well, what about something that just recently occurred, like injury?
That's just as
Yeah.
addressable.
Good, I
There's
could
still
be
no
your
such
guinea
thing as
pig.
a-
And I want to be your guinea pig.
Okay. All right. So I got 2 of them. Okay. Is yours new too, or is it?
Mine's been hanging on since January, since New Year.
Okay. Well, that's fairly new. It doesn't have to be. Okay.
It's new to, yeah, it's new to
New to
me.
you, yeah. And here's the thing about, Donna brought up a good question. Does it have to be chronic or can it be acute? It doesn't matter. It's still a reflection in my world, okay? And ideally, you want it the quicker you become aware of it, the quicker you want to get rid of it. In other words, the longer it stays there, the longer your consciousness what it means is the longer your consciousness is tied up in that issue. So if you got a digestive issue and you're always worrying about it, you're actually creating more of the problem because your consciousness is the problem to begin with. Then you start worrying about it, hell, you're making it worse and worse. So it's best to get it out of there as quick as you can, period. And there's no time limit to that. And usually when something manifests, it's not just acute anyway. It's been there for a while. You needed an accident, so-called accident, to bring it to your attention because it's been in the back of your head. So it's never, ever, ever, ever an accident, and it's never, ever, ever, ever just physical at all.
Your brain just said, I don't listen to that for a minute. It turns the volume down.
Yeah.
You have to have an
I'm busy.
accident, turn the volume back
Very
up.
good.
I'm
Yeah.
busy over here.
Stephen had a good example there. He's like, your body, and we do this with our pain, right? We turn the pain down. We're able to adapt. We adapt, and women have a higher threshold for pain than men do because men are kind of wimps when it comes to that. And there's a good reason. If you're going to have a baby come out of you, you got to have some pain resistance. So men tend to be a little bit weaker. But anyway, when we have a pain for a long amount of time, our body learns to be able to turn the volume down. And then, like Stephen said, sometimes an accident will come around to bring your awareness to it. But here's the thing: if you don't address something when it starts showing up, it's going to come. If you don't address it at different levels, the voice is going to get louder, the symptoms going to get stronger, and then eventually you may have to have an accident, which could be breaking an arm, losing a limb even, or winding up in the hospital because you weren't listening before.
It's kind of like you smack a kid's hand when they grab for something bad, and they grab for it again, you smack it a little harder.
Yeah.
Eventually, life will break your hand if you're not careful.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I use one similar to that with God is our parent, so to speak, right? What I would consider our parent. So, like the analogy just said, spirit is doing the same thing. It's going to slap your hand at first, or yell at you first, slap your hand, then maybe knock you down, just to get your attention, because we are dense at times. And what? Oh, yeah.
And then maybe hit you with the cars.
It's funny because I just had an image of God if they're going. Anyway, so let's go with Donna first. We're all gonna now. I recommend that you take your notepads there and play along. So I'm gonna because what I'm trying to do is teach you to be your own reader of the body, own reader of the physical reality. So, Donna, what's presenting itself?
Yesterday, I fell in my garage and fell flat, almost like I was in a movie when you fall flat. I
Okay.
hit, and I caught myself, so I hit right on my knees in the cement
That hurts.
and jammed from my right knee all the way up to my hip, my pelvic, my hip up here. And I caught this side of the body with this hand, so this arm is all jammed up this way. Yeah, so left arm, left kneecap, all around the kneecap, and right kneecap all the way up to the so it's covered. So it's miserable. You never realize how much you rely upon left and right until you can't do exactly.
Okay, so does everybody get that? I've just decided if you want a sheet, they're just $3, and there are different ones up there. Does everybody have like the body one that has the foot reflexology on one side? Okay, turn that over to the side where it shows the body. This side here. And I actually was asking about this last time. You're gonna look at the other side besides the reflexology. turn the sheet over, not reflex area. The reflexology, by the way, I
Reflexology on
put.
the back side of the reflexology.
Oh, yours is different, Tracy, because you're borrowing.
Yeah, I'm borrowing. I'll look at Jim.
Okay, so
Please,
Which one is it?
this one
I'll just give you-
apparently. I don't have that.
who doesn't have one?
She doesn't know.
I just need to borrow it from you, and I've got one at home.
I'll borrow one too.
Okay.
Rick's got one.
Oh.
Okay.
Ashley wanted me to do this sheet, so because I'm always talking left, right, and nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about. So this sheet would be like the first sheet, and you can see on, you got left side, right? So she had left and right involved, right? Right, left and right? But let's go with the knees. What are the knees related to?
Partnership.
Partnership. What else?
Bending your will.
Bending will. It's also not just bending will, but standing your ground, because you can lock your knees instead of bending. The whole concept, you think about when they tell you to bend your knees to pray, it's like bending your will to a higher power. Sometimes, though, in life, we have to stand our ground, right? So it'd be like the balance of will, which happens in partnerships, right? Because in a partnership, it's always like, you're always trying to find that balance, healthy balance, preferably, between your will and somebody else's will. So that may be what the knees relate to: partnership, finding balance within partnership. And that partnership could be simply with herself, or it could actually be with somebody else. Does that make sense? Because the reflective can be the self, and it can be somebody else. It's both left and right. She's more jammed up on the right side, and the right side goes up into the hip. What does the hip represent?
Moving forward. Knees aren't moving forward. It's the hips.
It's more the hips. I mean, actually, that's a good question, Carla. The whole legs are about moving, because you need all your leg to move.
And understanding.
Yeah, and understanding. But yeah, so we got up into the hip area, which is going to be movement, even though the knees are movement too. But we've got movement in the right side. So this fall injured her knees and jammed up all the way into her right hip, which could represent right hip again. Could be what? Moving. Okay.
To dreams.
Do what?
It says moving forward to dreams.
Yeah, that's one way to look at that, moving forward to dreams. Now, in the hip area, there's a line going across on the horizontal. What is that line there? Bridge of what? Doing and moving. So translating that, there's only going to be an issue in that area when there's a conflict. Okay, in other words, she's either doing something that's preventing her from moving forward, or she's moving in a way that's keeping her from doing what she really wants to do. Does that make sense?
So do you have to take into consideration the action of how she got hurt? If she tripped and fell?
Yeah, totally.
Or
Yeah. And actually, I know this story because I visited with Donnie yesterday, so I know a little bit of the cheat on the
Okay.
story. Okay, yes,
So-
you're totally right on, Stephanie, because the whole thing was, we broke this down, and I don't want to do it yet, because I want y'all to do it, and then we'll look at the bigger picture, okay? But you're right on, yeah. How the accident happened is key too, because even the word you use for the accident, like trip, right?
right.
So you could say, what's tripping you up in
Right.
partnership with yourself? You see how specific that can really get? And I literally think that's how it works.
I do too.
I mean, that directly, right? So tripping might be something you put into the phrase. Right on, Stephanie. What else we got? We got left arm, right? And you said it went all the way up your arm, Donna?
Yeah, it's starting right here and going, and stops right out here.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's left receiving.
Left receiving.
So this is me not wanting to receive
Or-
or problems not.
Could be.
Closed off to receiving.
Yes, that's right.
There you go. Yeah. Carla said closed off to receiving. In other words, she's going to have to manifest what's going on in her consciousness. So here she hurts her left arm. She's unable to move it, unable to receive what she needs, right? Are you seeing the picture now? And hands, I don't know that I had that on that chart. Hands are about
Yeah.
And stuff.
handling stuff, right? Pretty simple. Handling the little details in life. So I think that's enough on that. So Donna, why don't you share what was going on prior to the fall and how you felt.
Okay, I was walking out and to the garage to put some trash in the little dump, in the, our dumpster that we roll out. And there was a box, sitting in the way of the path, so I bent down and moved the box out of the way so I would not trip over it. And just as I passed the box, I noticed a little piece of plastic sitting on the garage floor. And that distracted me and got my attention on trying to make a decision as I'm walking. Now, do I want to bend down and pick that up right now and wait, after I dump my trash, or do I want to dump the trash and come back and pick it up and then go back and do it, Well, as I was going through this mental decision, my foot tripped on the end of the bigger box that I had pushed away so I wouldn't fall. So,
Did you manifest falling though? That happens a lot. You kind of thought about falling and you kind of manifested.
She didn't really think about falling.
I wasn't thinking about that I was
moved the
gonna
box
fall.
because you
Oh yeah,
worried
you
about
did do
falling.
that. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Good point. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I don't feel like I was projecting a fall. I was getting something just, let me put it this way. I moved the box because it was
In a
not where it
place.
should be.
Right.
Okay? And not being where it should be, it could lead to a fall. But my first thought about it was the box was not where it's supposed to be. And my second thought was, if I don't.
So there's also information not where it's supposed to be, and it may trip me up. Marianne, what were you going to say?
I wanted to ask her what emotionally, mentally she was going through before she went home.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, it was
Nothing.
fine. I was looking forward to having some good company that day, and I was just going through my routine of getting my house cleaned up, and that's my Saturday morning routine, vacuum and toilets and dusting, but just a little routine, and I was in a good mood.
Okay.
Wasn't upset about anything, which I don't tend to be.
So
I'm pretty balanced.
now let's take it even deeper. Okay, we know feng shui, right? Different parts of the house mean different things. Turns out that garage is in her self-cultivation area. Okay, and the box that she tripped over was some stuff that she had moved from an office she had to her home. Okay, so old work stuff boxed up in her self-cultivation. So here we had before trying to partner with self, trying to find the balance between self and work, okay? And then there was also this aspect of the little bitty things distracting and getting tripped up over the big things. See how literal it can be?
So on self-cultivation, which corner is that?
If you go,
Which
if you
direction?
if you
North,
walk
left,
right into your house, it's to the far left front.
Okay, so it's like the northeast corner?
I don't go by north, south, east things at all. I only go by door.
Which
If you go in the
element is
door,
it?
Huh?
Which
our
element
left front.
would it be?
I don't go by the
You
elements
do
either.
not do the
To
elements.
me, well, here's what happens: is there's so much information. The tiger, the sphinx. It's like the more convoluted it gets, screw it for me, because I'm just going for the basics. And just by going by the compass, that's enough information. Self-cultivation, she's trying to find balance between herself, her work, and she's getting tripped up on the small things in life. I mean, she's focusing on some of the small things which distract her, and she winds up tripping over the big things. That's it right there. Needs are partnerships. She's having an issue trying to partner with herself. That's how direct I think it is. And you can't convince me otherwise at this point.
Okay, well, why did?
Shut up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. Why did I twist my ankle, throw a Dr. Pepper up in the air, all over the front door of my business, fell out? I mean, it was like, oh my God, I hope nobody in the world saw this. I just turned around. I was going to go back inside. I've been outside taking a break.
Uh-huh.
But yet, I didn't get hurt. I don't have not one bruise. I don't have any sore spots.
Sometimes little bitty.
Sometimes can we just be a klutz?
Well,
I mean, did it mean
if you're
something?
asking me, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I
didn't
said,
get
I
hurt.
don't believe there's any
I
accident.
embarrassed the crap out of myself.
I don't believe there's any accident. But look at what ankles represent.
I stepped off the sidewalk. I thought I was stepping on the sidewalk, and I stepped too far, and I stepped off and kind of.
So you're
You made
going
the
out of
wrong
your business,
decision.
or where were you going in?
I was going to go back in, and I threw it. My left foot bent this way, So I threw myself this way trying to get my balance.
Balance.
And my Dr. Pepper went all over the front door of my
So when you're
business.
trying to decide if we're going in.
And then I fell on my right hip, but I didn't get hurt.
Okay, so, but, okay, let's bring it back to Annette for a second, okay? Here she's talking about this whole thing going back into work, which is interesting that you're bringing this up at the same time with Donna, because there's always a resonance thing.
Right.
Ankles are about what?
Decisions.
Decisions, okay? You also talk about being out of balance, so you went from one side to try to throw yourself off the other way.
Right.
Are you trying to find balance, or at the time were you thinking about balance related to work?
I was thinking about the next dog I was going to groom and the proportions and the ratios and.
Okay, I'm talking deeper. I'm talking about work. Were you thinking about at that time frame, do I want to do things differently or anything like that? More deeper decisions about work. Do I want to work more? Do I want to work less?
I don't remember thinking about really anything specific other than I was just standing out there thinking about.
Okay, I'm talking.
I always mentally create the next one in my head before I do it.
I'm just talking about the time frame. That time frame. Don't worry about that second.
Yeah.
That time frame. Were you thinking anything around making decisions around your work?
I was thinking about adding another day to my week.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Threw you off
So
somehow.
it threw me off.
Yeah, and you see, and it wasn't that dramatic because the thought wasn't that dramatic.
It's
Yeah.
probably saying, yeah, you can do it and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because you just did all that acrobatic work
There
and
you
you're
go.
just fine.
Yeah.
So,
You may have to do.
That I've
Yeah.
actually injured myself.
I don't know.
See, it's like Stephanie said, maybe it's saying, yeah, you may have to do some acrobatics, but
Right,
you'll be
you're gonna
okay.
get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Donna's like, if you don't get this right, you're going to hurt yourself.
Okay.
So, okay, after all that blah blah blah.
I got up and I looked around. I'm like, oh, please don't let anybody be around here anywhere. I was so embarrassed. Oh, it was ridiculous. And then I had to go.
Well,
wash
Donna,
the front
when she
door.
was describing that with her body language, was how like you were saying the infinity energy flow.
Okay. Explain a
Like there
little
was
more.
left arm. right
Yeah, I
leg.
mean, she just did it on her
Oh,
body,
okay.
the whole deal.
Well, and that's how our energy's balanced, right?
Right,
We're
yeah.
grounded, we're coming in, we're going out, so yeah,
It's all
that whole
blocked up.
thing got whacked out. Whacked out. Technical.
Whatever.
Donna's whacked out. That's what you need to write down, everybody.
Whack.
Donna's whack, or Donna's whacking. I'm trying to decide whether I want to do you table.
I think she needs the table.
Don't make me do anything. Let me be still.
Can you, yeah, you can follow that.
So my question is, should you go ahead and entertain that evening?
Say, Marianne,
Did
say
she
again.
go ahead and entertain that evening? I mean, the next day, whatever she was.
Did you go ahead and do anything?
Oh, yes, yeah. As long as I was still, I was fine.
It's the movement. It didn't prevent her from completely just,
So it's whatever has restricted her movement. Or
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that was the last thing I needed to do
Crash
on
shoes
my
on.
get ready was to take out the trash. So I was able to, lay down and,
so she'd already done everything, but that last thing tripped her up.
yeah.
Here, let me- Okay.
Haven't gotten her yet.
Appreciate you asking, and I'll let you know.
Okay, one thing that we didn't even go into was the muscles involved, right? Which is what I've been trying to focus on. So let's bring us back, we've been on a little tangent today.
Oh,
Um,
Yeah, it's the whole
Is there any particular muscles that are bothering you, Donna?
this
Okay, what muscle is this related to? Going at your color chart.
is all the way up to here.
the heart.
Look on your color. Turn that one, Marianne. The very last one, turn it over.
Small intestine.
Oh, you got it. Small intestine. So somebody would read small intestine stuff. The chart. Turn it.
Vulnerability, abandoned, insecure, deserted, absent-minded, lost, neglected, deprived of love, deprived of safety, deprived of closeness, deprived of intimacy, deprived of nourishment, deprived of warmth, dark secrets, unable to receive, forgetfulness, difficulty expressing emotions.
Okay, there's a thing about, when we talk about we can have a relationship with ourselves or other people, sometimes being deprived doesn't mean somebody else isn't doing it for us. We're depriving ourselves, right? But ultimately, it all comes down to us doing it to ourselves anyway.
It's kind of like you were talking about earlier, depriving yourself of carbs.
Yeah.
Sweeten.
Can I get a taste of that sweet?
Sugar monster.
I'm a vampire.
And see how that leg is turned that way? It's like I can't turn it this way. And the other muscles are all the way from the leg.
Okay. All the way up, right?
Yeah, all the way.
So what are the forearm muscles related to?
Stomach.
Stomach, yeah, okay.
So she fell in her hand, this is spleen.
Yeah, that's another stomach and spleen are partners, right? So she cut herself with this muscle within the hand, and that is a stomach, actually a spleen muscle. And the thing about our hands is these fingers here, the four fingers, they're supported by these huge muscles here. The thumb is entirely what they call intrinsic muscle. That's why people's thumbs go out. It's that tiny little muscle. Massage therapists use that a lot. It's like, I'm freaking tired. So, so those muscles there are spleen, some spleening to do. Okay, we're gonna play with this. Where I'm drawn straight off is her sacrum area, and that might just be some compensation. So whatever the person's presenting, it can go beyond that. We've got small intestine here, and the funny thing about small intestine, one of its major ideas or correlations is about decisions also. Decisions. Because in the small intestine, you have to decide, I'm going to absorb this, or I'm going to send this as waste to the colon. Okay? So small intestines represent decisions. So here we are. she has a little bitty piece of paper, or I'm going to trip over the box, right? So she was doing all this in her head, distracted, worrying about making a decision, and then she winds up tripping. Which I guarantee you is totally what's going on in her consciousness. Does that make sense? Okay? And it always does that. It does make sense because it is sense.
Also, one thing on the left knee,
Yeah.
it's right below the kneecap. I have a scar where I fell on that knee.
That or long ago?
That was a long time ago. And also this, I actually broke this tella.
So it sounds like she has a very strong repeated pattern. Like, let's see if I can get this. Get it.
And those occurred when, those occurred when I was in my 20s.
Okay. Both of them were close together?
They were like, let's see, the scar occurred in about 24, 25.
Okay.
And the broken one was about 28, 29.
Anything going around the 24-year-old time period?
Well, I was on my way to, going out of town to an herbal conference and stopped at a garage to get some gas and came out of the bathroom and didn't realize there was a step down and fell on cement there. That's another cement thing. But I don't really remember any issues going on in my life with that, except just being excited about learning more about herbs.
Okay.
And then the broken kneecap was a horseback. I was riding a horse,